as a contract.
Okay, okay. This is
because-
separate from that.
Yeah, because we see the project manager as being something we're going to need for the life of the VCBB. The fiber optic engineer will be front loaded heavy in the next year, but it'll get lighter. So that's a contract position.
And may I ask, is there any need for financial personnel?
Define on what side of the finance side of things.
Yes.
So whether it's review of the total grant amount and tracking, or whether it's preparing for, we've had a lot of conversation about VETA and getting ready for public funding and that sort of thing. Those are two radically different
That's right.
areas. But I just wondered if there's been conversation about whether there's a person.
Yeah, so the grant administrator is going to take care of all the grant reporting and grant management.
And managing the fund balances
Yeah.
and stuff. Okay.
And I should, just for purposes of breaking the budget out, we are going to look for a broadband project developer, but that's going to be funded out of the NBRC money, not out of.
And that's the one putting together the financing.
That's put together financing.
Counting
Yes.
CUDs.
So we,
And
that's,
so I have a job description we can pull up on the screen
I see.
afterwards. I can go through some.
That wasn't intuitive for me, so, okay.
Yeah.
okay. So additional personnel, let's go there. Additional personnel is the broadband project developer, which is, you go back to the operations budget, you see NBRC expenses and Universal Service Fund expenses. We're funding and so if we go to the NBRC expenses.
Jason, can I pause for a second? Like, what is the time frame for this budget? Just so everybody's clear, this isn't just a year. This isn't just a year.
This is through the end of 2022. That should be addressed on the first page, 2021 through 2020. That includes money we've spent.
And the personnel cost also includes the part that the state takes as overhead, which is substantial.
State takes about 80% overhead.
Holy
80%?
For what?
Well, I don't find that unusual because typical business is about 65%. You're talking about space, the space, the grounds, the buildings, the
We're not
personnel
using-
overhead.
Yeah,
The personnel overhead.
okay, but that's their policy.
Yeah, that's pretty much, yeah. I mean, you'd be surprised. I think in the utilities, we were about 67%. So good for you.
So can I just make sure I'm clear too on the length of time? So all of the positions are the same length of time?
No, the length of time should be identified here.
Hours?
Large numbers, the number of hours.
Yes, be the number of hours. So you've got a total of 2333 hours available.
That's what, a year
No, that's the entire period.
for the,
That's the
what
first-
is the start date of the period?
The start date is August 9th
August 9th, okay.
of this year
Through the,
through the 12/31/2022.
Do you expect the general counsel to only work 12 of those 15 months, or because that's the only one that's not lining up?
Yeah, I just,
I think it started in August and we haven't hired the position yet. I think that's where that comes in.
yeah, that comes to the fact that I don't think we're going to get that position until January 1st.
Okay.
If you look at 2167 hours, that's 13 months, right? The reason,
28 is a year.
yeah. So you're looking hourly. If it's a classified position, it's hourly. If it's non-classified, it goes by a month.
so Christine,
Yes.
keep going on this afterwards.
Okay, so in personnel, you see broadband project developer funded by the NBRC grant, and the rural broadband technical assistant funded by the Universal Service Fund. That's Rob's position. And we have contingency built in here for any changes that might be occurred. There's a description on if you look at the next page, I've described the role of each one of these functions. So I'll just go down. We talked about project manager, duties include responsibility. I don't need to read all that for you, but, and then the broadband developer duties are, read those 2 paragraphs. Those are important. Those are the 2 jobs that we're introducing here. Project manager, broadband project developer.
We need to read them right now.
No, if you have any questions. Any questions on personnel?
It just the overlap between Rob, the project developer, the project
Yeah, I'm
manager,
confused.
I know there's a ton of work in there. I know Rob, you have been bearing all of that work as we ramp up, but just understanding the interplay between those 3 would be helpful at some point.
Okay. Would you like us to describe that now?
Are you ready to do it now? I mean, it's totally up to you, or you want to?
Well, everything you're saying begs this question. What will the outcome of our discussion on this budget be today?
Well, we'd like to approve it. If not, we'd like to get
Well, we
started.
better discuss it then.
Yeah. If not, we'd like to we certainly want to get moving with the broadband project developers.
All right, so let me just, so executive director I get, grant administrator I think I get. I mean, they're going to be the eyes, ears, and mostly the financial controls over all of the grants we're
Yep.
going to be issuing.
Grant
right?
reporting,
And why does it say PSD there?
because that job is in PSD.
And they'll be borrowing, but that'll be a dedicated resource?
That's a dedicated resource.
Okay,
Yeah.
so beyond June's team,
Okay.
but dedicated to us. Is that true?
Hate that.
Okay. All right, general counsel, I get.
And we're required to do that way.
That's in the legislation, yeah.
Keep going. Look it up.
General counsel, I get. The executive assistant, I get. So then project manager, broadband project developer, and then Rob's position as well. So
Okay,
those 3, how do those 3 interplay and how do they?
Right, so the project manager, they're taking all the projects and managing it to the time, classic project management skills where,
What projects on behalf of the CUD projects?
no, for our projects, for example, we're working on taking care of the labor constraints. We're working, we put together this pre-purchasing plan.
Yep.
So, and it's also managing it's also working with the CUDs to ensure they stay on the timeline, and we take any issues that need to be taken at our level in order to help them with their timelines. So this is about timeline reporting for all of the CUDs and working with those CUDs as well as any of the projects that we're working on. And one of the big ones is going to be the labor development, the workforce development.
So you envision them to be very hands-on, working with the CDs, and exactly what they're working on, these positions, being very intimately involved with the CUD work.
I think it depends on what the topic of discussion is, but they're gonna have some connections. Like if their focus is on workforce, they might be dealing more with the Department of Labor, Vermont Tech, and any private finance or something. It's gonna vary from project to project.
Or if we're looking at Make Ready, for example, Make Ready might be a good example. You're looking at, if everybody's Make Ready project is slipping, we're going to have to put something, not going to have to do anything, but our job would be like, what are we going to do to help with the Make Ready? It may be, going to Canada and getting resources. And, the Make Ready project itself could be a demanding project because we'd like to be able to address all the things we can in order to solve the Make Ready problems.
There also might be some reports that need to be written. There's reporting that needs to be done. And that's actually something I don't see in here. We talked about trying to model the reporting dashboard.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
But that's one thing.
Yep. Thank you.
So these are really positions that are multidisciplinary, that are flexible, and can assist where that is needed at the time.
Yeah, the dashboard project itself is a big project.
So think research, think helping us stay on task, thinking about going in deeper where we don't have the time. So just make sure that we're dotting the I's and crossing the T's. for that position.
Yeah, but it's, the way you describe it, it is more than just a classic project manager
Yes.
skill set. I mean, it's, yes, you have to be good at project management, but you're also going to be doing a bunch of other ad hoc stuff.
Yes, we wanted to keep it as wide of a description as possible to not just get somebody who just knows how to do project management, but has no interest in the skill, the topics. Right.
Yep, got it.
So,
Can we stay in one conversation with this?
so the project are we ready to talk about the project
I am.
developer position?
Unless anybody else
Yeah.
wants, I'm ready to go next one.
Okay, so the project developer position serves several different purposes. I put it up on the screen for everybody since I know it came in late. But it came out of a grant that we're getting from the Northern Borders Regional Council that was originally it was based around the idea of the CUDs are only going to have a little bit of funding, then have to be able to access VITA, then access the bond market, and search for private investors. It was very much focused on that, and it has shifted a little bit because of all this grant funding that has come in. But that's still the crux of the position. We have added on the other side of it to be able to assist our grantees when it comes to federal grant management, just be able to answer some questions. So helping with compliance, helping with the evaluation of grant applications. So we've added a few other things in there to complement the finance person that's at the department. So some of that maintains more within our direct control. So I don't want to read through everything in here, but this person also identifies and applies for additional funding. Like we know there's going to be some funding coming via USDA Reconnect, for instance. There's also all the NTIA program and the infrastructure bill and other opportunities. So this person would stay on top of that, point out those.
So what are you gonna do? What are you gonna do?
I'm doing a bit of everything with what I'm doing now, but hopefully be doing that better rather than being spread so thin.
I'm just getting,
So
you see my point though, I just get confused about where, is it like you have an assistant? Is
No.
that what you're saying?
No, I don't have this background in private finance. I don't have enough background when it comes to federal grant management and the different like uniform guidance. I have enough to be able to get through and be able to provide some guidance, but this is ensuring that we're providing the best service we can to the groups on the ground, making sure we're leveraging enough of the funds and as much funds as possible that are out there, since the ecosystem of funding opportunities is constantly expanding, and we need to be able to keep on top of that. And frankly, we're all just spread incredibly thin at the moment, and things are falling through the cracks. We've been doing a tremendous job at preventing that from happening, but we don't want to see any opportunities fall. And we also want to be working with partners all around the state, private and public, and around the country. We want to be able to stay connected and to fulfill our side of things. So that's what all of these positions are about, of giving us the capacity to do the job that's at hand. Sorry to pontificate. Sorry for the speech, but it's getting a little bit overwhelming right now. And I value the quality of work that we do, and I want to make sure we keep that up and expand.
Yeah, I actually feel, well, like today, I didn't even get a chance to prepare for the meeting, as you probably noticed, but I was, I'm meeting straight up right till noon, which you have to do.
So, and you're right, there is a lot of overlap between some of these positions. Like the person who has the broadband project developer, maybe assisting with some of the workforce stuff.
Doesn't exist.
Like there's a variety of there's a lot of overlap, and it's trying to create a web that allows us to do our job effectively.
Brian, did you have a comment?
Yeah, and then the piece that's missing to me still is then there's got to be some sort of a connection back to the Department of Public Service and their telecom division, right? I mean, they still have responsibilities. They still provide regulatory oversight, or at least work streams out of that exist, separately, but should be done coordinated with the VCBB. So those are resources that I know you don't control them or oversee them, but I wouldn't want to have redundancy to anything they might be providing. You know what I mean?
I don't see it as redundant myself. I see, but I do see this need of, there is a gazillion programs coming down the pipe. And so how are we putting all those programs kind of through this overall funnel of construction planning? And so I see it from that standpoint. but, and then I see separately the care and feeding of CUDs as a separate layer.
Which is Rob.
Well, that's why I asked, because I'm lost.
Yeah.
Where's Rob?
No,
You know.
I mean, Karen Feeding is gonna be the project manager, the project developer, Rob, and then Christina seeing, being over the top of it, from what I said. I mean, all of that's Karen Feeding, right?
Yeah.
Well,
Among a bunch of other stuff as well.
Right, and we also have to do, I don't say it's Karen feeding, but they're not the only eligible applicants.
Yeah,
that's right. We
And there's
haven't
gonna be
gotten there
additional
yet.
things coming down that we're gonna be asked to do, and I'd rather be prepared as opposed to, like, as I said, we've been making it work the last few months, but it was challenging with just Christine and I and so much stuff being front-loaded already, and this is before my assumption that the legislature is gonna give us more to do, but reality is just gonna give us more to do. Starts happening.
Why would you be thinking that the legislature is going to give you more to do?
Well, legislators gonna expect testimony from me fairly
Yeah.
regularly, I suspect.
Oh, just
Yeah.
reporting.
Yeah.
We also have several reports that we're gonna have to write. They're gonna
Yeah.
want additional reporting.
I think the only kind of policy thing, my sense is the only policy thing that we're gonna be looking at is really like more funding and kind of over. So what's the status, more
Yeah.
funding?
Yeah, and
And
we
then
need to
if
be
there's
prepared.
any
We need to be
requests.
prepared to do a good job reporting to the legislature as well.
And it's,
It
we've been
takes staff
talking,
to back you up.
Yeah.
So I don't have
Slides
a
together.
problem with these positions. I'm still not crystal clear on like who's on first. But I'd like to go back to the grants administrator. There is no basis in the legislation to say that the PSD has that position. There just isn't. And where there might be, it says that this board can determine what it can take any actions it needs to make things work well. Paraphrasing. So is there some reason why you want the grants administrator to be reporting to the PSD? Because to me, it does not serve you.
Yeah, no, I actually thought this was resolved and it's been closed and I didn't see any reason
By
to
how?
question it.
So we should update
Yeah.
in our discussion with June relative to
Yep.
the staffing. Christine and I did talk through with June about the process of staffing. In a nutshell, all staff have to go through a reporting requirement through the state process, through the state, what is it, the classification system?
Yeah,
It has to be part of the system.
It has to go through a process, so this isn't over in the departments, it's not June holding us up, but there's a system that the positions have to go through. And it takes time, I'm just gonna say it's bureaucratic, it's political, it's a big system that they have to sort through the positions, determine scoring, and figure out where they fit among all the other positions. There is a process we have to follow.
I'm not questioning that. I'm saying, is it true that the grants administrator, I mean, then if for all of it you said, every one of these positions will have to go through that process.
Right, yes.
But I note that the grants administrator has a special designation PSD. And what I do not understand is who is hiring that person?
June is hiring that person. I thought we resolved this like the first meeting, but so I haven't asked any questions. I assumed that's the way it had to be and just kept moving. So if this is an issue, we should talk about it.
Well,
I think the position as envisioned over on the department side is more of a nuts and bolts position of, okay, the grant comes in, we have to enter it into vision, we have to do all this stuff that's part of the processes. It's not about overseeing the actual grants as much as it is to some extent, but not as much. And that's why some of those have been added on to this broadband project developer position.
So it does say that the department has to manage the funding.
Right.
To the extent that, and make decisions to the extent that they're not assigned here. But the grant allocation, the money, who it's with, the grant itself, the writing, the application and completion of that grant, that's all here. Not wherever the department is there.
But it's all with the grants administrator. The question
Well-
you're asking is, why is that in the PSD?
It's, yeah, and
That's- yeah,
because
and I
they
don't
may
know.
need some financial oversight and they may be charging our account.
Yeah.
But from my point of view, this person reports to you and does the work that we've been conducting, completes the work that we've been conducting here. And so I just don't even understand how that person could even be a PSD employee. And so, I mean, if I'm wrong or no one else cares, just tell me that. But I think we're being pretty cavalier about it.
My sense is the department they want to work with us, not against us. So I'm of the spirit of let's focus on all this other stuff that we have to tackle and not get bogged down into
On who that person who is administering our grants belongs to.
the department is going to support us. If this has a PSD behind it, in terms of a little label, I don't see that as this person is not going to be supporting us. You need help, you're going to get it.
Yeah,
Is
and
that
I-
a fair statement?
Yeah, and I would guess, I would say, if I look at these state processes, they're pretty much, there's no gray in it. It's pretty much black and white. So the point is,
Well,
Rob and I have to comply with
I
these
guess I don't
processes.
understand then what this person is doing. So we've approved 3 pre-construction grants. Who's going to complete the grant documentation?
They are.
They are, and they're also going to enter a vision
They who?
department.
So they weren't here,
So-
they don't know the conversation, they have no context.
I'm talking, they're gonna complete it in terms
The
of,
vision, they have to put it
in terms of routing all the documents for signatures, in terms of entering it into the budget system.
Who's
That
going
side
to
of things.
produce the document?
So June is responsible for administrating the fund. And so when that gets audited, it will be June
Yes.
who will deal with the audit findings, not us,
Per se.
And this person,
Technically.
what
technically.
Rob, you just said, I think is very important. So this grant administrator, we've made an approval. The grant administrator takes our approval and pushes it forward to get the funds to the right
Just
person
make sure. yeah.
from that bucket to this bucket to the CUD so they can actually spend it.
There's
So
one
that-
step in between, it's where we figure out the scope, where we do the draft grant agreement that is sent over to them for processing.
And so I am assuming then forevermore that Rob Fish is drafting those grant agreements.
At this moment, yes.
And what moment will that change?
Ideally, when this broadband project developer comes on board that has.
Oh,
even
that
more
goes to the
experience,
broadband project
Yes.
developer.
that would be one thing that is added onto that position. So that person also has the relationships and can also assist them in identifying other funding sources.
Because they're helping to put together the complete financial package for building out in a CUD.
Okay,
Yes.
so the reason why I care so much about this, just saying, is because I don't particularly want to find that the department 3 months later is questioning, well, wait a minute, why'd you make this decision?
Agreed.
Or do you have the valid backup for
Yeah.
that decision? Or wait a minute, how are we supposed to register this in the, where did you?
I don't see that. I don't see that.
I don't think they would
hard.
be, do it as non-supportive. I think they just wouldn't be in the loop with us and we might not know, or they may not ask us in a timely way. It's just functionally, it's just bifurcating the task. And so if you're comfortable with it, great. I'm just saying, batten the hatches, you're going to have a good grant agreement so that they can translate it directly into the system.
What they're transferring into the system is a matter of the numbers.
Okay, that's fine. If that's all that person's gonna do is the numbers, they're gonna
Christine,
get a
your
lot of money
job
for
is to
it.
make sure that we don't get bogged
Yeah.
down and make sure the process is working.
And I will tell you,
If a staff, let me finish, if a
Yeah.
staff person is not completing a task, because they need to put the money in the right buckets, your job is to chase that down and make that happen.
Right.
Like, we're
Right.
not gonna get held up, we got bigger things, bigger fish to fry.
So one thing, just calling attention time, I have to leave right at 4, and I know I do want to do the briefing on the pre-purchasing. From reading the board, I don't know if we're ready to vote on the full budget at this point, but can we start the process since we know it takes some time for the broadband project developer? At least to start the process with getting it through human resources and.
I don't think we need their approval to start the
Correct.
process, right? I don't think we need.
Well, well, if we can't approve the whole budget, can we approve that we are gonna do this as a position? Or if we don't need to do any of that, I'm fine.
Well, no, I'm just wondering if we could start the process. Do we need your approval to start? Probably we need your approval to hire the person, right?
Which
The
position?
broadband project developer.
That's the NBRC.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah, like yesterday.
Okay, you want to vote on that?
I move we authorize Christina's staff to move on this position, the broadband project developer funded by the NBRC grant.
Seconded.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Very good.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Do you want to take action on the full budget next week? Give us a chance
Yeah,
to.
yeah, I definitely would want to
Okay,
take time.
why don't we
on
do
this.
that?
Yeah.
So the next time we meet, which is in 2 weeks, then we'll take action on the budget. Gives us some time. We've heard some words, read all.
You asked some very specific questions. Are you satisfied that you've gotten very
I'm good.
specific answers? Okay.
And feel free to send questions to me. I'll share them with the board at the board meeting, but I will answer all those questions and be prepared for the next board meeting.
I'm indifferent whether it reports to the grant administrator reports to the PSD or not. I hear what you're saying. I think it would be to Christine and Rob's advantage if it was in this group. But if there are procedures or some reason that it should be over the PSD, so be it. But it's an important role that needs to be on staff soon.
Yeah.
I see that it's a definitional issue for me. So you guys helped clarify it, actually, for
Okay.
me.
Yeah, and if there are issues that come up where we're getting second guessed over there, I mean, as we did last time, I would expect, if the board has a problem with that, the chair and
We'll go
the
sit down.
director will
chat
go
with-
sit with Jim.
And I expect also
Yeah.
that we have a collaborative relationship. And
Yeah,
expect to
we are
work
all
that-
pulling in the
right,
same
right.
direction. We all want to see this happen. We
And if
have
it
to
doesn't
see it
happen, I'll make sure
Yeah.
we do have a collaborative relationship.
Okay,
Great.
all right, let's,
Public
um,
comment and then real quick and then switch to it. 'Cause then it's all executive session, I think, at the end.
I'm happy to do
Or
that.
I don't know.
Happy to do that unless there's any objections.
So are you gonna call?
All right, we're gonna go, excuse me,
I
we're gonna go into public comment. We're 10 minutes early, but we will take any public comment at this time. Is there anybody participating that would like to reach out or express an interest or,
I see Steve
Anything you have
Huffaker,
to say?
I see Will.
Yeah.
Steve, you go first. Okay, Steve, I'm gonna spotlight you in 3 minutes. You're still muted.
can't hear you yet,
Yeah,
Steve.
you
There we
look
go.
very
How's
good.
that? That better?
Excellent.
Thanks to all for the approval of our grant from 2 weeks ago. Just wondering when we're going to see a grant agreement.
Hopefully,
As soon as that position is hired.
hopefully this week, Steve.
Thank you.
Yeah, the good news, Steve, is it has been worked on. We know that for a fact.
Excellent. And we do know that we have other tasks to undertake before we get any construction grants, so we haven't forgotten that.
Excellent.
Great, thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks for your work.
Thank you, Steve.
Okay, Will,
All right, thank you. I'm Will Anderson from the CUD Association. Just a couple of quick comments. Excuse me. First off, thank you very much for all being here today and approving not one, not two, but 3 pre-construction agreements, including on Northwest, which is one of the, let's say, fledgling CUDs. So really glad to see that not just the established CUDs are getting the support they need. So really excited to see those grants approved. So thank you. With regard to the pre-purchasing, VCUDA is organizing around this issue. The CUDs are very interested in having a bulk purchase of fiber they can draw from in the coming year. We have been working with our lawyers and talking about this issue, figuring out exactly how we can facilitate it best. Talking with Rob and fleshing out a number of different options, we want to get this done. To that effect, we're working on a number of issues with the CUD so that they can get this approved so that we can be an accommodating party for this agreement. So I know it's going to be an executive session, but we're anxious to learn more. Looking forward to see what kind of agreements the state has put together, and we're looking forward to supporting those agreements. So I want you to know that our support is fully behind this.
Can you remind me, there was something about a bylaw issue, and I don't remember what it was exactly.
So there has been some, I guess debate is the right word, over whether Vicuda would have to change our bylaws in order to facilitate this agreement. At present, with what we've been dealing with most recently, the information we've had most recently, we don't think that the bylaw change will be necessary. Because, well, not to get into the weeds of it too much, because we actually wouldn't be at that much of a financial liability with the current arrangement that we think is on the table. Again, this has been a developing situation, so.
The bylaw says you can't take out loans, or,
The bylaw says that we're not allowed to go into indebtedness.
thank you. That's all.
But the arrangement we think is on the table would not actually put us in that position, and rather the financial obligation would be elsewhere. So we think at the moment that the bylaws will not have to be changed. We're also still debating possibly changing the bylaws anyway, in anticipation of future agreements. But right now, we think that with a memorandum of understanding amongst the CUDs, that will be sufficient to put this agreement through. But again, we need more information from the states on exactly what this agreement is going to look like before anything gets signed. But in our meetings, we've discussed this. There's been support. CUDs have lots of questions about this, about specifications. We've worked through those. So we're really anxious to put this process to a close and get this purchase done. So you have our full support there.
Thank you.
May I ask a question? I know this is public comment also, so I'm hoping that
Please,
we get.
I'm ready to take questions.
Yeah, well, I'm
Well,
hoping that we can get Vicuda. I thought we had agreed they would be on the budget regularly. I don't know that we're supposed to ask questions during public comment, but maybe.
I think this is a little
Okay.
bit relaxed. So we
Okay,
can
thank you.
engage if you'd like.
So I want to make sure I understand. So I heard you say you'd like to see the agreement before it gets signed. And then you said we're on board. And so those two things do not mean the same thing to me at all.
Let me clarify.
Okay.
We've discussed this as it's been ongoing in our Vicuda meetings with representatives from all the CUDs, and have each time received unanimous votes of support in favor of proceeding with the process as it's gone on. So we've kept the CUDs updated on where Rob and Christine, and to some extent myself, have been at with these negotiations. And the instructions have been to proceed, and the CUDs have been kept abreast of what they're going to need to do to agree to this, to take on obligation for this.
It's a challenge right now where we can't speak publicly because of some of the financial partners that are involved. We don't want to, there's a risk of there's a risk of premature disclosure. So that's why we're being very careful about not discussing who the different financing partners would be at the moment.
So I have another question along these lines, which is if we have agreements, non-disclosure, do we have any non-disclosure agreements around this that we've signed?
There's an
one
NDA
with
with
the
NRTC, one of the vendors.
Is it just for VCBB or is
Just,
Vicuda a
no,
part of
just
that?
for VCBB.
I'm not going to.
We don't have non-disclosures with the partners, but it's as with anything like this, it is a delegate negotiation.
Yeah, but you are really toying with the open meeting rules, because if it's sensitive, get a non-disclosure agreement.
Yeah, we did.
So the reason that I'm asking this is because when we do go into executive session, I would ask to consider if we could have VQ to come in to talk about this, since it's pretty key. But if they're not a party to an NDA that we're going to be discussing,
that's
that
right.
doesn't seem like it would be possible. And I'm not asking for us to do that, but I would be asking for that to be considered. So.
I don't see how we could have Bill participate right now with the structure, because then somebody else could come in and say, foul here, you violated the open meeting law content structure. I think we can meet as a group, but I don't think we can include Will at this point.
Well,
We can
Is it the
include people
rule
into executive
that you
session, but not for
you
NDAs.
can welcome
Anybody, yeah. it's material.
into an executive session if they're going to be a contributor, a subject matter contributor to the discussion.
I think so.
Quite sure.
But if he's not party to the NDA.
What's that?
I'm not ready to any NDAs at this point.
That's so.
Hey, I'm going to rely on you, Holly, as a
Well, I'm
legal
going to cross-check
representative.
that, but that's been the practice of the public of the executive sessions that I'm aware of.
Yeah, so
Yeah, we can-
because we have the NDA.
Because you have to name and specifically invite into executive session. Like if you need the advice of counsel, you can bring counsel into your executive session. If you need subject matter expertise of some
Right.
sort, you can bring that into.
Right, so I think about council has an arrangement with the organization. Will does not have a direct arrangement with VCBB.
Well, if you're doing a project for a particular, I mean,
I think it's moot
Also-
at this point because he's
I
not
don't
part
want
of
to
the
go.
owner.
Yeah, since we have the.
I don't think we have to do it today,
All right,
so
let's, in the interest of time,
Yeah.
let's get into executive session so we can talk about what you.
is there anything else we need from Will?
So
We do, it's,
can I ask him one more question
Yes.
then?
Let's try to be brief because
Yes, yes.
Rob is
I
going to
have
be
to
out
go
of
and we
here.
have to figure out are we getting in on the executive.
Well, so do we expect to make it, do you guys want to vote in, do you want?
We
a
don't.
vote?
We don't need a
We
vote.
don't expect there to be
It's an
action coming out of this.
We're informing
just
you.
Informing you. There may need to be a time where there is, but ideally there's not going to be.
Okay, then I guess,
Yeah.
I mean, if there's, yeah, I guess I'm okay then.
In the interest of brevity, I'll conclude our remarks there.
Thank you, Will.
That's good of you.
Okay, we do
Thank
have,
you.
Irv does have his hands up. We can
Okay.
stick 3 minutes, because.
Thank you,
Go ahead, Irv.
thank you. I don't seem to be able to open the video, but can you hear me?
Yes.
We can hear you.
Okay. With apologies, I listened to the first hour and a half of the meeting. I had to do some unavoidable errands, so I apologize if this is a redundant comment. But this is about Make Ready. I had the pleasure of working with Brian 2.5 years ago on the legislation that called for an overhaul of the Make Ready rules. And I have to say that GMP and WEC, who are the two electric utility providers that I'm aware of, have been really magnificent partners to CUDs in the past couple of years. I wanted to commend you folks for leaning toward, I don't remember if you took a final decision on this, counting make-ready applications as pre-construction and deferring make-ready work to construction. I think that is, generally speaking, a very appropriate split. And that lets write-outs happen early and provide further information that's needed for detailed cost analysis before final construction planning. That's all very good. I wanted to remind you, though, that typically, once a make-ready quote has been given by the utility, it has a 2-year time window. And if make-ready isn't carried out within those 2 years, then there has to be a new application. So a CUD with a large territory to cover and plans to do it in stages doesn't want to get too far ahead of its skis. I think in the PUC rule as finally adopted, I think there's some encouragement to mutual negotiation between the pole applicant and the pole owning utility, and that makes some accommodation possible. But I just wanted to raise that caution to be passed along to CUDs who are applying so that everything gets well coordinated, which is obviously your intent. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Are there any other folks in the waiting room for public comment?
Okay, I think.
Steve has his hand up again.
Rob, you'll well recall, I asked you about, I don't know, it seems like 3 weeks ago about the 2-year question. And you did your homework and came back and said no such 2-year constraint exists. Can you help us settle this one?
Christine, do you want to go? I'm going to need to refresh my memory on that one. I'm.
Well, I do believe there's a constraint there. Subject to check, rule 3.700, we will check. And we'll check and get a message out to VCUDA.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Are there any other public comments? All right, hearing none, we're going to close the public comment section of the agenda. And I would like to make a motion that we move into executive session to discuss pre-purchase recommendation from staff. And the reason for their executive session is requested due to the confidential nature of the discussion, possible harm due to premature release of information.
Okay.
All those in favor?
Hi.
Aye. Any opposed?
And did we need a second on that motion? And this is one of the things that's going on with, is it Amanda? Who's
What?
taking minutes?
Audrey.
Audrey.
Let's take a second.
I'll second it,
Holly's
Holly.
a second.
Okay, and please, Audrey, when you do the minutes, please note the purpose for the executive session.
Thank you.
So I have to figure out
Thanks, Will.
how.
All right, so I'll seek an update tomorrow on.
Sure. Okay,
Thank you
so-
all.
Thank
So
you.
I'm gonna create a, or actually, Dan, if you have the invite right in front of you, could you call one of us and we'll put you on speakerphone?
Yeah, call me.
I think that might be the easiest way of doing this. So I'm gonna stop recording right now and we'll just rejoin the meeting to stop.